Hello and welcome to part one of our Building a Node, Express and Postgres API project. Before we get started, there is a link in the video description just to a GitHub repo which you can pull down to get yourself started and set up and work along as I am here. And what we're going to do today is we started out on the branch part one start, which will get you set up with the to-do file for this particular part of the project that we're gonna work on. So first things we're going to work on today are getting some initial packages installed that we're going to be working from, and then also just set up an entry path for or an entry file for our project that's going to house the code that's going to essentially start the application. So first things first, we've got a few packages that we need to install, mainly, and I'll give you a rundown of what these are as well. So Express is going to be the framework that we use to build our HTTP server. We have CORS, which is cross-origin resource sharing. This is what allows our API to be accessed from a domain that is different from itself. So it's required if you're ever going to want this domain to be publicly this API to be publicly accessible for people to call from a domain that's different to the one that it's hosted on. NodeMon, which is our package that we're going to use to restart our application locally every time one of our files changes, which will give us a real quick overview of whether any of the changes we've made will break our application or not. So it's a really useful tool. We've got Jest, which we're going to be using for our unit tests and integration tests. It's a really popular framework or library, from Facebook, and the syntax for it is really nice. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And then we'll have .env, which is a popular way of providing your application environment-specific configuration. What I mean by environment-specific is so when we're developing on our machine locally, we want that to be our development environment, and we might have a different database server address than if we were to publish this out onto a cloud provider. So what we want, and what .env will allow us to do, is have a database URL for our development environment, and then a separate database URL for our production environment. So that's what .env does, and it does it with a really nice syntax around a special file called a .env file, which I'll introduce you to a little bit later. And then what we'll also do is we'll add our index file for our project as well. So to get started, we're just going to install a few packages here, and what I've done is I've left the versions on here as well, which I'd recommend you install as you're going along, the same versions that I do, mainly because I've tested these out and they're all compatible with each other, so that should make things really simple when you're working along like this. So just at 27.0.6 and then .env 10.0.0, and assuming I've not made any typos, we should be good. So what this will do is it will go through, pull down all of these packages from the npm registry, and then it will store them in our node modules folder. Oops, and I have made a typo. It's not a COSR, CORS. You can install these packages individually or all in one go using the same syntax like this. It'll store these files in a node modules folder for you. If you pull down the repo that I'm working with, it already comes with a gitignore file, which, as you can see, has grayed out this node modules folder, because you don't want to be putting this up on GitHub, because node modules folders tend to be rather huge, so you don't really want to be adding those. And what you'll find is your dependencies will all now have appeared within the package.json, and once you're done with that, what we'll do is we'll just add our source folder, which we use for all of the bits that work within our application, and we'll add a subfolder called app, and this is just going to be the folder that contains all of our all of our code that's going to power our application. What we'll do for our entry file, just to show that it's going to actually do something, we'll just create a main function, and what we'll have it do is just log something out, hello world, and we'll just call that whenever this file is loaded into Node. And what you can do now to start this application off, you just use Node source app index.js, and we should have hello world with typos. Excellent. Hello world. So that's all we're going to do for this part of the video. Is we're just going to get everything set up like this, and next what we'll do is we'll look to get all of our configurations set up, our environment variables and everything set up. So look out for that one in the next video.